got the floral works coming out around their heads. What I find quite interesting is if you can zoom in onto these two white columns at the end. I've never noticed those before, just either side of the window there. I had a dream a couple of nights ago, and I've never spotted those columns before, the two of them, but they were both in my dream. They were both actually down on the floor, and that was where the dragons were. Wherever, I think it was Paul Broadhurst said that wherever you find green men, you'll always find dragons somewhere nearby. Now, I think we've looked before at the different imagery that goes around the green men, and there are a few things like there's a portcullis there, there's certain musical instruments there, there's obviously some flowers, there's what looks like a square from a square and compass. Just looking to see if there's anything else there. Can't really see anything else. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think we've discovered the dragon, and unfortunately we can't quite get it close up. I don't know if you can zoom in on one of the white columns there, but my recollection from the dream is that's actually where the dragons are, is under those white columns. But unfortunately, obviously, we can't get in to look for them. But it's also interesting as well, there's some scaffolding here, and I seem to have a brief recollection of that from my dream as well. But interesting stuff. What's also interesting about these green men is, I think I'm right in saying they date from the 18th or 19th century, so in the scheme of things, they're not as old as the majority of other green men that you'll find in medieval churches in England. Although this is a very old church, that decoration is dates from the 18th or 19th century. So they wouldn't have been part of the original tradition of the green man. Yet they've got them here. It'd be interesting if we could find a dragon to see if they did understand the importance of the dragon.
Usually Ireland is more associated with the Shield and the Gig, and it's England that's more associated with the Green Man.
Well, I think that's right, and they're probably, two sides of the same coin. They're both wild man, wild woman figures. It's an interesting point. Why should the Irish be more connected to the female? But I think another case in point, the Irish have always revered their female gods, female goddesses, or even don't even need to say female. The goddesses more than the male counterparts, and I think that even continues in Christianity, where, in my opinion, the Irish have a much greater connection to the female figures, the St. Bridget's, obviously Mary, Jesus' mother, than they do with the figures of Jesus and God. There seems to be a much greater connection to the female deities.
There's just very interesting imagery in those windows. Like, you're seeing pyramids, you're seeing Merkabahs, lots of St. Bridget crosses and galaxies.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at them, there's also a lot of shapes within shapes there, particularly the
there's a lot of fire there.
There is a lot of fire there. I'm particularly looking at the circle or the kind of rosace window at the top there, where like there's a triangle surrounded by a circle.
Yeah.
And there's various different shapes then hidden, almost like a
hidden in plain sight.
What's the circle? Tetrahedron thing.
Tetrahedron, yeah.
What's it called? The circle of the circle of life thing.
The flower of life.
The flower of life, yeah. It almost looks like a simplified version of that. I mean, what's interesting there as well is there's a real mixture of straight lines and curved lines.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the two kind of triangles at the above the round windows there, or even there's a cross made up of 4 different shapes.
Yeah.
So, or a cross made up of 4 circles, even, and then within that there's another cross.
Yeah, things within things.
Exactly. So there's the Masonic Square again. I guess that might, something else it might conceivably be is the coat of arms of the local aristocracy, who obviously would have supported this church. But that's also one of the images that's up on the ceiling next to one of the green men. So, may well be a Masonic connection here.
So those pillars look as if there's something missing from the top of them.
They do. But again, we're kind of looking at pillars within pillars, because it's quite strange as to why those pillars are there. Because you wouldn't have thought you needed the plinth. It's like they put a plinth inside of a plinth. Here we go again, wheels in wheels. Now in the dream I had, those 2, well, I only saw the one that was on the right. I didn't see 2, but that white plinth was down on the floor and the dragon was underneath him.
Who knows, maybe they're going to put in a new dragon there.
Well, I don't, it kind of looks like they might have had a Christ and a Mary there.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the obvious thing, but there certainly is something missing there. A figure I saw in St Bartholomew's Church in England, in London, St Bart's. You look at him, I always get the impression he looks like a cat or perhaps a lion. And it's not really clear whether what he's breathing out is the wind, or is he breathing out fire, or indeed is he breathing out foliage? Could he be a green cat? There are certainly examples of, although they're very rare, but there are certainly examples of green cats and green dogs, in the same way that there are green men and the occasional green woman, I think. But he dates from an age that's earlier than the actual columns that he's in. They obviously found an old piece of masonry from a previous iteration of the church, and they've stuck him in there. He doesn't really belong there, but he is rather nice, sitting and laughing down at us, and inscrutable as a sphinx. I think he quite enjoys the fact that we don't know what he's about.
Yeah.